Hello you beautiful lot, today is the 5th of March and we are actually celebrating down the embankment, and there's quite a lot of talking go on, and I've managed to get some epic speeches with lots of information for you, including one from Marley Lyman, the second gentleman to climb up the tree. Also I want to give a big shout out to our wonderful tree that is new named Adam. It got ripped apart by a gentleman called Adam, and now that it's quite deformed we named it Adam, so God bless Adam. Also the other tree has now got a blue plaque as well, which is pretty epic. So enough of that, let me show you some of these epic conversations because they've been quite beautiful. And yeah, just be aware there is a council meeting the 9th of March up at Sir Christopher Hatton at 7 o'clock. If you've got any questions, write them in to your town clerk of Wellingborough Borough Council, Doddington Road, Swanspool House. Right, lovely. So that's all that. Let's just hear what they've got to say, eh? Hey! Yeah.
Is everything okay with them?
Are we in trouble again?
Are you two okay with us?
Yeah,
we're in a
literally all we're coming is just to touch base with you guys, just make sure everything's okay. We're not going to stay.
Oh yeah, no, this is a celebration of winning the battle, mate. Yeah.
On Friday, when we had the brilliant news that we've actually got a pause in all this travesty that we've been experiencing, it's easy to just think that, oh well, you know, because the media were there and they were asking us this, that and the other, but I think there's something that we all need to do. So what I want to invite you all to do is to let's hug each other, because we've done the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
We have achieved the most amazing thing, so let's just all have a big hug.
Yeah.
Have some of that.
Yeah, we'll have some of that,
We'll have
mate.
some of that.
Bloody right. Lovely. Neither am I. Well, I don't know. I've given you 2 in the last couple of weeks.
That's true, yeah.
I'm grateful for you, mate.
Just come here,
Beautiful.
you. I'll have you.
Oh, mate. Oh, they're coming in for purple. Oh, they're coming in for purple. Brilliant. Oh, of course. Spread the love. Spread the love. Oh, no love. No love. Brilliant. They're going to regret turning up today, aren't they? Raining in. We did it, girl. Brilliant.
If you haven't hugged at least 6 people, you haven't been doing it right.
Well, I might be doing it right, but there we go.
I don't know what to say, really. It's, yeah, I do feel quite, what's the word?
Emotional.
Yeah, emotional. I don't know what to say.
I'll give it to somebody else then.
Yeah, I will, yeah. So, hopefully everybody's aware that we've got a pause for a number of weeks. I don't know how long. We've heard from, or I saw in the paper, from Vistry and Stanton Cross Development, so they're hoping to have this consultation, or rather engagement event. I don't know if it's going to be consultation, but it's supposed to be an engagement event, and I think that's going to be this month in March, so that's happening. And obviously until that time, no more trees will be felled.
Hey.
So, on Friday, obviously a lot of us, well, we've been very elated since then, and I'm pretty exhausted, and it's easy to think that it's job done, but it's just the pause. But it's important that we celebrate the amazing achievement, because if it hadn't have been for all the people that have come out, that have come here today, that have come here before, that have written, that have contacted their MP, that have contacted their councillors, that have supported and have come out to demonstrate, and of course to our friend Paul that came and sat in the tree last week.
What a legend. What a diamond. Oh, Marley Lyman, of course.
And of course Marley that came the day after and did exactly the same. Then these trees would have gone. We would have lost them entirely, really.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we recognise what we have each achieved, because the amount of people that said we couldn't do anything, we couldn't change this at all. We have changed it. No matter what happens, from here on in, we have changed the course of this event, this activity, because we've made the people that weren't listening actually listening, actually listen. They've had to stop, they've had to pause. So there's a number of things going to follow on from here, but I just want to encourage you to understand the things that are important. I mean, on Thursday there is going to be a town council meeting, and that's interesting to go to. It'll be interesting to hear people's thoughts. It'll be interesting for people to go and speak. But just be under no illusion that that won't change anything, that meeting, because it's the town council just giving a chance for all our voices to be heard, which is important, but that's not part of the main things that need to happen next. The main thing I think we need to do as a group of people, as a community of people, is to start firstly to create a funding pot, because we need to get a legal decision to save these trees. We've had a decision about stopping, and we've got that, but the only way those trees are still going to be standing is if we get some kind of injunction to actually enforce and make sure that the tree protection orders are enforced. Now, the other day when the developer relented and they decided that they're going to have this pause, because it's an unofficial pause, I believe. Once they decided to do that, we had asked them some questions, but they haven't answered those questions. If they cannot provide the proof of their legal reasons for felling these trees, then what we need to do is get that in front of a judge so we can get an injunction to stop these trees being felled. The developer wants to see if they can negotiate about the trees. For me, the point of negotiation was before they felled any trees, not after they felled 15 trees.
Well said.
So we'll have to see what comes, but I hope you understand, and I hope it's something that people will support, that we need to create a bit of a fighting fund so we can pay for the lawyer's support, so we can get this case hopefully in front of a judge, so they can make a decision about saving our trees.
Have we got someone who set up a GoFundMe page yet? Have we got one?
Don't know, has we?
I don't know. Hornet's usually good at that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Nominated!
Okay. So that's one thing we're going to need to do. Obviously, we've got a barrister and some other barristers working with them that are keen to help us, but I don't think it's fair that we take someone's labour for nothing.
Yeah.
I think that we have to properly reward people for their contribution, and what a contribution they have made to us. Because if it hadn't been for Paul coming down last week, sitting in that tree up there, which we put a blue plaque on now,
Yes.
we wouldn't be as joyous as we've been able to be. Any other thoughts about the things we need to do, the things that will help us at the moment?
Just one, Marius, and being very vocal about his support to the result of this campaign.
Can you use the mic, please?
Sure.
Hello, I'm Johnny. I live on PurpleVision Road, so the road will be going past the back of my house. There is one other thing that can be done. So I've experienced this when I worked for an MP in Hertfordshire, and that is getting our MP to write to the Secretary of State and get this called in. Right, so there is the other thing that can be done, is the Secretary of State actually calling this decision in. It is possible, but the only way we're going to do that is in a uniform way, by writing to Peterborough to actually get this called in. And I think Michael Gove, the Secretary of State, responsible for this actual decision. So we had experience of this when there was an incinerator decision that was being imposed upon the community right next to a school down in Hatfield, and we actually got it called in by the Secretary of State. So I think having a couple of tracks going, absolutely, the Fighting Fund's a brilliant idea, But the other thing is actually, which is free, that's all of us to write into Peter Bone to get us called in by the Secretary.
So right into Peter Bone. Blooming right.
Yeah, I'll take that on. I can get a wording of a letter and distribute amongst this group.
If they're all the same.
No, we need to put your own person, so it needs to have an emotional connection. At the beginning of that story, put in your emotional reasons why this is important to you as an individual and you know, from your heart. And then from there's some things that we can do in order to get Peter Bone to call this, Michael Gove to call this decision in. And that's the other thing we can run in parallel, and it's free.
Well said, Johnny. Thank you.
So the other thing in there is any data around the petition. That will help, because that will help influence and start to shape the Secretary of State's decision around this ridiculous approach to community engagement. And that is the biggest piece of advice I'd have at this stage.
And also, if you are writing to Peter Bone and you're not part of his constituency, if you are writing to Peter Bone and you're not part of his constituency, you'll just get the parliamentary protocol standard letter sent back. But you can, however, nominate somebody from Wellingborough to be to make it legal and override parliamentary protocol. So if you've got somebody who is from Wellingborough, if you're not from Wellingborough, as I'm not, but you have got somebody who is, then you can use their address or email.
Thank you very much for both those ideas. In terms of being from Wellingborough, you can be working in Wellingborough or connected via a business to Wellingborough. You don't have to just live in Wellingborough to be able to write to our MP. That's very helpful. So we've got the ideas of having a fighting fund, so we'll need to sort out how we raise funds to pay for this action. We've got the idea of asking the MP to call in this decision by the Secretary of State. The other thing is about going back to the local government ombudsman, or actually looking at judicial review, because it's not just about the fact, it's the fact that the council, there are so many questions that North Northampton Council have to ask about this process.
It's a public inquiry we want. That is what.
Yes, that's it.
From getting the Secretary of State to put in, it's a public inquiry that we demand as a community, and that was what we achieved with the incinerator. So that is the ask. So in that letter, we'll have, that's the outcome we want. We want every single bit of paper reviewed, and that is a judge that actually does that under a public inquiry, and that will be held here in this community. You know, not in London, but here in Wellingborough. So we want a public inquiry here in Wellingborough, get this called in by the Secretary of State, and you know, this is just a pause, but we want it stopped. Yeah. And the only way you're going to do that, as well as a lawyer, it's the only way we're going to do it is legally.
Yeah.
Are you going to put that face letter on Facebook?
Yeah, I'll do it, yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely.
So just to follow up on that, well, firstly, I want to thank this young man who decided to sit at the tree last week.
Young man!
This is Marley who came to sit at the tree on Thursday, didn't you?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
9 hours. I'm definitely not scared of heights. I sat up a tree for 9 hours, and that's something. But the thing that I think is just really amazing about this particular campaign is that it is everyone coming together doing what they can do in order to contribute. And I think that's so important. It's like the community hasn't been so close as it is now. And it's really inspiring for a lot of people and a lot of groups, and there are lots of campaigns like this all around this county, all around this region, all around this nation. And the thing that they're finding is that these issues matter to everyone. They galvanise everyone. They bring everyone together from all different walks of life, because we can see the destruction of our natural environment before our very eyes during a climate and ecological emergency that is, threatening all life on Earth. But here we are fighting for the most basic of things in our own back gardens. And it's just so inspiring to see everyone come out. And I said this on Thursday after I'd come down and been de-arrested and all of that nonsense was over, that it's so important that the people who make placards, and the people who make tea and bring food, make tea and bring food, and the people who share on social media, big up PurpleVision. The people who do those things. And the people who can climb trees and don't care about the police, whatever they've got to say about it, they do that. And every single thing that each one of us does is as important as every single thing that the other people do. So we have to come together and do it all. Otherwise we're not going to win. But it looks like we might win. At least there's a glimmer of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's all thanks to people like yourself putting the groundwork in, people like Paul Prousland, who climbed sporadically on that day, completely unprepared for it, and spent an entire day in a tree. And then that inspired me to show up the next morning, because I knew that if I didn't, all of those trees there would be gone.
Yeah, and they would have.
And I wasn't going to let that happen. And but it's the groundwork that you guys put in, and then it's everything that everyone else can put in that makes a difference. So just big love to all of you.
Yeah, what a legend.
So just following up, thank you very much, Marley. Just following up from the ideas about what to do next. I would ask, I'm sure many of you have questions about how on earth we got into this situation. Okay? Now what I want you to do is write your questions down, because what we need to do is almost make a tapestry of those questions, filter through them, and use that as the basis of how we move forward.
Love you lots, Mum.
I wrote out some questions the other day, but I'm sure there are many other questions around this whole thing. Why did it happen? Why 3 weeks ago did we suddenly find out that so many trees were about to be felled and no one in the public knew anything about it?
Yeah.
There are so many questions, so I'm asking you to think of your questions, and for the moment, until we get somewhere for you to send them other than this, I would encourage you to send them to my email address as a town councillor, and then we will collate these questions together. Now, some of these questions will be brought forward on Thursday for the town council meeting. What I was thinking was we create a big pool of the questions that we want to ask. Some of those people can actually also write in to the town council with, and I'll talk about that meeting in a minute. And then we'll start to filter out what we need to know and where we're going to find that information from. But, I don't have all the questions. I've got quite a lot. But I'm sure many of you have got many, many others. So if we can pull those together.
Being here, showing solidarity together, I think. My name's Rocky, by the way. I'm from Wellingborough. I was born and bred here. I was born at Isbrook.
A legend then. A legend then.
I'm from here. I know some of the people here, and some of my family's here too. Just from a horticultural point of view. Now, I'm not an arborist, but I'm a horticulturist. So that means that I work with plants as well, like with Jonathan. And so I know a bit about trees and stuff. So I don't know if anyone knows. So the ex-borough council that was here, okay, so they had a tree officer, and we're talking about planning. Her name was Felicity Webber. And as far as I'm aware, and I've had to deal with her when I'm working in conservation areas on gardens and trees with tree preservation orders on, then she's the person that you need to speak to about doing any works. And she, as far as I'm aware, is transferred over to Northamptonshire Council, because not every council, like some in Northampton for instance, don't have someone dedicated to trees in planning. Okay, so we as Wellingborough should still have...
She'd retired.
Is she retired? Okay. So there isn't any... So we've got someone now, okay?
I think there's a guy called Brian.
Okay, so they're normally the person for the negotiation again, so with regards to trees. So the other thing, I'm so glad you brought about TPOs in Wellingborough, Marion, because if you think about all the trees that we've got in our towns and parks, none of them have really got any protection. We've lost so many over the years. Those in Eastfield Park, for instance, all the lovely copper beeches that we've got on there that were planted for centenary for one of the kings. Okay, where's that on those? We've had lots of other trees that have been felled in recent years through Norse. There was no tree replacement policy, okay? So this is something as well we need to look at. We're going to need to mitigate also what we've lost. We've got to try and save what we still have, but also mitigate the loss of those trees. And what Stanton Cross is saying is that we're planting new trees. We're planting them in a new country park. We're planting them in a new town park. That's Stanton Cross. That's nowhere near the locality in London Road where these tilliers are, which are an avenue of trees. It's like having a motorway of trees for wildlife ecology to actually go through. So what they've done is they've cut a huge chunk out of there.
Yeah.
And they might be going, okay, we're planting a few trees, but what is the type of tree we're going to replant? They may be replanting little saplings, okay, little whips, which were these little sticky things you stick in the ground. They cost them tuppence, okay? So what we need to do is make sure we get them where it hurts, which is financial. They don't like money being lost, okay? So what we want is to make sure we get good-sized trees replanted, that is replacing the ones we've got there. And also, they need to be canopy trees, okay? They need to give canopy cover, which is going to protect the soil. It's going to give us shade, people to sit under, you know? There's so much at stake here. So the species can't be really small trees. There's lots of silver birches. Look at the embankment. Look what we've got left. We've got willows. Okay, they're great for the floodplain. We've got lots of silver birch. Now, does people know with silver birches, their life expectancy as a tree is about 100 years. So look at the ones around. They're failing already by the embankment because of waterlogging. But the ones that are going around the River Nen here, okay, how long have they got? What's the plan? Who's going to replace them? It was down to the Victorians. A lot of the Victorians have planted our trees, okay? But we haven't been replanting like the Victorians.
Last year in the tornado, we lost 6 trees just along this bank alone.
Exactly, so it's to do with replanting, but not replanting. We need to make sure they've got a robust management plan of the trees they're going to replant. Watering, staking, mulching, making sure the tree guards are actually fully on there for as long as they need to be and then removed. The trees, the oak trees they replanted in Castle Fields to replace the diseased horse chestnuts. Yes, there was a legitimate reason why those trees were felled, because they were diseased. It's canker, and they can fall on someone, it can kill someone, so they had to come down, but they were replanted. But at the time, I got in contact with the leader of the Borough Council because they were not maintaining those trees. The tree guards were growing into the trees, and I remember on Facebook asking them to remove them, okay? So there is a lot of complacency about trees. They think, oh, we can bung a few in, but it's not as easy as that. But we need to make sure there's a robust plan for maintenance, that they're watered, they're the right type of trees, that they'll also tolerate the climate we're having, okay? We're getting hotter, drier summers. So a lot of our native trees, they're great for wildlife, but also lots of our non-native trees are good for wildlife too. They still have the flowering potential, they still have the food and the resources, but they're going to be more resilient. So we need to look at these plans carefully to make sure where is the mitigation for the trees that are being taken away already. And if we have to lose any, or I'm saying we shouldn't have to lose any, because what's the point of having a dual carriageway? But if they say, and we have to compromise, which we shouldn't have to do, but money speaks. But we need to make sure that actually they're through and it's written down, and they need to make sure that these things go through. Okay, so there's a few bits. The other thing is like this town council meeting, as Marion says, you need to document it. I've been onto the website. Yeah. It was put through. I've already messaged them these points about the trees, the protections. We've got to look around the communities where they are. What's the maintenance, the mitigation, and also an inquiry of how we've got to this point in the first place, because that is a breach. And so they need to make sure that whatever happens, whether it's the North Northamptonshire Council, they need to be penalised for what they've done, and it needs to be set in precedent that actually this cannot happen. There's a tree preservation order for a reason, and money cannot talk over law. Our laws of this land are based on this is what we are, a democracy, and the people say no. So where was the democratic position of when they were doing this? They didn't follow it through right, so therefore it's illegal. They need to sort it out and get their acting together. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really well said. That was pretty emotional over there. Even got me old mumsy in there in the background. So but yeah, that's pretty amazing. So I would love for you all to attend this big meeting. I want to fill Sir Christopher Hatton School and then some. So yeah, we may not be able to speak properly in there, but at least we'll be there in force. So 7 o'clock, Sir Christopher Hatton on Thursday the 9th of March. Come on down. Big shout out to Marley Lyman. Lovely meeting you. And I got a photo with him too. So if you like that video, hit that like and subscribe. And we lovely legends, we'll see them all in the future.